I'm joined now by Galway's Mattie Murphy, and we're here at the Electric Ireland Minor Star Awards. And Mattie, you yourself, far from minor, but you're still getting the awards.
Yeah, I think it took a bit of pity on me at this stage and said I should get one before I pass away or something.
Oh, jeepers, now let's not get that morbid. In fairness, just because you're living proof, though, just because somebody's been around the block a few times doesn't mean you still haven't got something to give. And if anything, the information you're learning and the knowledge you have is still very, very relevant.
Well, I don't know. The game has changed so much in the last 4 decades that it's unreal. You know, the level of fitness, the level of skill, the minutiae that teams go into is it was unheard of in the early days when I was involved.
When you say the minutiae that's unheard of, when you look at people training today, those young men, what they're training compared to back in the day when you were playing minor level, what is the big thing that sticks out?
Yeah, I think the skill level is the big thing. You know, there were a few exceptional minors every decade, but now the skill level, I mean, that it's gone through the roof. And even I'm looking at under 10, under 12, under 14 on a regular basis. And, there's young fellas walking up to a line ball 30, 40 yards out at 12 years of age and putting it over the bar. That was unheard of, in 1992 or 1994, in the early years that I was involved with minor.
At what stage do you think that began coming in? And is it coming perhaps from coaching in schools? Is it coming from coaching at county and provincial level? Or is it just natural involvement?
I think it's a mix of all. And probably you have so much television coverage now, and they all see the stars in action, and they see them oftener. And they'll try to practice the skills that they see them perform. So it was unheard of, I suppose, till Joe Canning came along for somebody to consistently put a line ball over the bar. And then every young fellow went out and practiced and practiced and practiced. And it was the bane of a lot of managers' lives, because when a line ball came, you had 4 or 5 lining up for it. You might have an idea of what you wanted the player to do with the line ball. But from once he lined up, I mean, there was only one thing in his mind: I'm going to be Joe Canning, I'm going to put it over the bar. And 9 times out of 10, he'd put it wide, and you were having to defend the puck out.
Some would say it's a good problem to have, that they're dying to go do it.
Yeah, but there's a time and a place for everything, Usually when you're defending a puck out, you'd only win 40 out of 60, 40 out of the 100, 4 out of 10. So all of a sudden, your back line were in trouble straight away. The puck out was coming down top of your half back line, and they weren't thanking it, the people who were after putting the ball wide, Every year you go into something, every team you meet, for the first time, you're learning something. And I mean, I was wet behind the ears when I went into the job the first time, and I suppose I was awful lucky because I took a team in 92 so that I'd have the 93 team. And we won in 92 and we got beaten in 93. So that was a lesson to me for all my years.
What was, when you look back so far, does any incident or moment stand out in your head as your most challenging moment as a manager?
The worst moments for any manager is when he's culling the panel. You'd have maybe 50 fellas taken in at the beginning of the year, and then by the time the leaving cert was over, that time we were getting into serious training. And probably a week or 2 after the leaving cert, we had our leaving cert. And, there was no, it was honours or fail. So you either got in or you were left behind. And sometimes you left fellas behind, and you'd say, you'd have reservations about leaving them behind, but it was a numbers game. Every fella you had in was going to cost money down the line. You had everyone that was left in the panel got extra gear. They got looked after training sessions and all that kind of thing. And so it was a numbers game, and the board would only allow you so many. And you were always fighting with them and saying, gee, if I could hold on to this fella for a couple of weeks, I see something in him.
Is there any fella in your mind that stands out when you mentioned that, the fella you fought for? When you think of some men over the years now that were boys at that stage and have grew up into wonderful senior hurlers that perhaps might not have if you hadn't fought to keep them, because we all know you kind of got to stay a minor. I know some people can go around the roundabout and still make it out the other side, but if you don't make that first hurdle, it's very difficult to go into senior then after that.
Yeah, that is very often the case in Galway, but the one that stands out is the one I rejected who came through, and at the time when I was making the decision, it was clear cut as far as I was concerned, and as far as the rest of my selectors and management team were concerned. He wasn't up to it at that particular stage, but he was a raw talent, and we had only a month, maybe 6 weeks and we wouldn't have time to hone it. But he turned around and he dug in, and he turned around and he proved us wrong. And he came and won an All-Star and won an All-Ireland last year.
Obviously, the next question I have to ask now is, who is this player?
Gearóid McInerney, and them are the kind of decisions, and you'd always say to them when you'd be cutting off the panel that that it wasn't an easy decision, and that you hoped that 2 or 3 years down the line that they would come along and prove you wrong, and that we'd be delighted if that happened.